Helga G. Pataki. She was lean, mean, and a fighting machine.
Now, give me that bad girl scowl.
What bad girl scowl?
That stuff it all, I hate the world, kiss my bum scowl.
Hey, cool it, teabag.
In this video, I'm going to explore all your questions about this popular Hey Arnold character, like why was Helga obsessed with Arnold? Why was Helga so aggressive?
Helga, please unhand Harold.
Was Helga the protagonist of Hey Arnold all along? And many more. So if you want to watch more videos all about TV shows from the 90s and 2000s, subscribe for new videos every Thursday. Welcome to Dial Up Digest. Helga G. Pataki was one of the main characters in Hey Arnold. Helga's signature look included a big pink bow on her head, a thick black unibrow, blonde hair that stuck out from the sides of her head, a pink dress with a white t-shirt underneath, and white shoes. Despite her apparent fondness for the color pink, Helga was not interested in traditionally feminine activities. For example, in the episode Helga's Makeover, Helga despised the idea of going to a slumber party and playing with makeup.
No, go to Rhonda's party and have your little makeover. You've got a million better things to do on a Saturday night than be stuck in a room with a bunch of sissy girls.
However, she eventually caved into peer pressure and changed her mind after she was teased for not being like the other girls. Helga was a very complex and well-developed character with many attributes. For one, Helga was very intelligent. She was an amazing poet.
Knew it! I'm a literary giant!
And was oftentimes praised by her teacher, Mr. Simmons. Helga was also good in math, as is evident by the episode A Day in the Life of a Classroom.
Helga, I seem to remember you got an A on your last few math tests.
Helga may have also been gifted since once she achieved a perfect score on an aptitude test.
I can be anything I want to be!
Helga not only excelled in academics, she was also a talented athlete. From baseball to football to race car driving, Helga loved sports and was always ready to take on a challenge. Helga was also infamously and unapologetically direct. She spoke her mind and didn't care about offending anyone.
Put a sock in it. The rest of us can't live off our bulk like you can.
She didn't care about the status quo and took pride in being a leader and not a follower. She thought elements of pop culture like gushing over celebrities or aspiring to be famous was a waste of time. However, in a weird twist of events, Helga once became a celebrity herself, and it was exactly her no-nonsense personality that won over the masses. Sometimes, though, Helga's confidence morphed into arrogant bullying of her classmates. Helga was one of many bullies at PS 118. We frequently saw Helga defiantly marching around the school or neighborhood, bossing around other kids.
Oh, how clumsy of you.
She was unnecessarily aggressive and at times violent.
Move your butt, pig boy! Ow. You're in my seat!
Helga was also very serious when it came to theater. In the premiere episode of Hey Arnold, titled Downtown as Fruits, Helga is the director for the school play. Helga proved to be a perfectionist who wanted the play to be successful, and once things started to not go her way, she became anxious. Helga had a tendency to start to panic when situations took a turn for the worst before anyone else.
We're all gonna die! We're all gonna die! We're all gonna die!
For a fourth grader, Helga was pretty strong. She managed to not only pick up Brainy, but toss him off of a moving train. Perhaps Helga inherited her strength from her dad, Big Bob. Helga also seemed to have caught his tendency to say,
"Oh, criminy!"
love of eating, and sometimes disparaging sense of humor.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen!
I know, it's horrible.
But Helga's relationship with Big Bob was very strained. He oftentimes ignored Helga. He forgot the fact that she was allergic to strawberries, forgot her age,
9, Dad.
9? When the heck did you turn 9?
and even her name. He also didn't have faith in her spelling ability, which is evident from the episode Spelling Bee when he tried to cheat to make her win. Understandably, Helga disliked Big Bob and didn't even call him Dad. However, she did care about his well-being. This is evident by the episode Big Bob's Crisis, where Helga persuades Big Bob to go back to his confident and individualistic lifestyle.
And the truth is, I don't like the new you. I miss my old dad.
Making me think. I don't like it.
You say that you act like a jerk and a big blowhard and all, but I still love you for that. That's who you are, and I depend on you to be my dad.
Her heart-to-heart with her dad was a rare moment where we saw how behind her hostility was just a daughter who wanted the best for her dad. And while Big Bob maybe wasn't the best father, he cared for her as well. Similarly, Helga's mother Miriam was also neglectful towards Helga. She also forgot her age and forgot to pack her lunch on more than one occasion. Just like how Helga didn't call her father Dad, Helga called her mom because she doesn't think she deserved to be called Mom. But again, like Big Bob, Miriam did show that she cared for Helga. For example, in the episode Road Trip, Miriam wins a bull riding competition for Helga. And in the episode Beeper Queen, Miriam decides to stop working because Helga missed her. While the neglect Helga felt affected her negatively in many ways, there was something positive that came from her experience. Helga's lack of parental guidance meant she only had herself to rely on. This meant Helga grew up to become confident and independent faster than her peers. We saw this many times during the Hey Arnold series, where Helga plans and executes complex schemes independently with unwavering confidence in herself. Now let's talk about Helga's older sister,
Olga, Olga, Olga. So she's beautiful and brilliant and popular. Big deal. If I hear her name one more time.
While Helga was completely ignored by her parents, Olga was deeply loved and praised. She was the golden child, and Helga resented her because of it. Helga refused to show any level of affection to Olga most of the time, and returned Olga's gestures with disgust. The Pataki sisters had a complicated relationship. Olga didn't like how she barely knew her sister and once tried to get closer to Helga. In the episode Student Teacher, it became clear how the two didn't understand each other well. In the end, Helga decided that it was better for their relationship if they were apart. Interestingly, later on in the series, during the episode Big Sis, Helga actually becomes jealous because she isn't spending more time with Olga. Helga's soft side for her sister was also apparent in the episode Olga Gets Engaged.
Why are you doing this? You don't even like Olga.
When your sister's in trouble, you're supposed to do something about her. It doesn't matter if you like her or not. You're supposed to do something about it.
This shows how on the surface, Helga behaved as if she didn't like her sister, but she was actually repressing her true feelings.
Love Helga.
She knew Olga loved her, but didn't want to accept it nor show how she secretly cared for her sister as well. Speaking of repressed feelings, Helga also infamously repressed how she truly felt for another character in this show.
Arnold, you make my girlhood tremble. My senses all go wacky. Someday I'll tell the world my love. Oh, my name's not Helga G. Pataki.
Helga and Arnold's relationship started way back to when they were in preschool. During the episode Helga on the Couch, Helga explains to a psychologist named Dr. Bliss how from a tender age she was ignored by her parents. The level of neglect she experienced was so severe that she had to walk to preschool all by herself. The first person to notice her once she got there was Arnold. Helga was caught off guard by his kindness. It was always Olga who had all the attention. Later on, when Arnold offered his cracker to her, she was hooked. Helga's visible appreciation for Arnold caused her to be mocked by a young Harold. Soon, the entire class was laughing at little Helga. Helga turned to Arnold and saw how he was confused. Helga immediately shot back with aggression and physical violence to hide her true feelings. I think Helga felt embarrassed that her peers thought she cared for her classmate, so instead of acknowledging the truth, she changed the apparent perception of herself as affectionate to the opposite, an aggressor. Another theory as to why Helga was aggressive was that she was afraid of rejection. Perhaps Helga was afraid Arnold wouldn't feel the same way about her after Harold called her out. That caused her to put on a tough front as a defense mechanism. Fans have even created a term named after Helga's approach to love, dubbed Helga Pataki syndrome. According to UrbanDictionary.com, Helga Pataki syndrome is defined as loving someone so much that you hate them with the same intensity because you're afraid of rejection, so you cover up your true feelings with the opposite. That momentous day was the start of Helga's reputation as an aggressive bully and her destructive internal cycle of unrequited love. Helga called Arnold names like
Football head,
stole from him, and even stalked him by playing jump rope outside of his house. Not to mention, she broke into his house multiple times. Yet Helga carried around a locket with his picture in it and even created a shrine to worship him. She went through the painstaking task of collecting gum that Arnold chewed and made a shrine to look just like him. At one point, she even had his beloved blue cap to complete her work of art. Helga would sneak away to be by herself and lament passionately about her love for Arnold.
Oh, Arnold, bane of my existence, blight upon my tortured heart. If only you knew my true feelings for you, and if only you felt the same true feelings towards me, dare I imagine, if only for one brief, mad moment, it were true. Call me mad, but I dare.
When she was at home, she danced around her room, praising her beloved classmate, and kept a diary filled with eloquent and descriptive poems. Throughout the Hey Arnold series, Helga tries desperately to hide her feelings for Arnold from everyone in her life, but at the same time, she was tormented by her inability to express how she felt and longed to be able to tell Arnold the truth. During Helga's appointment with Dr. Bliss, she eventually confesses how she feels about Arnold, and when she did, it was like a weight was lifted off of her shoulders. She was elated and almost felt comfortable enough to finally tell Arnold. Almost. So instead of being caring towards Arnold, she inappropriately expresses herself through violence. However, there were a few instances where we saw Helga and Arnold behave almost like good friends. Once was during the episode Biosquare, where Helga rescues Arnold during a flood in a greenhouse. Another time was during the episode Arnold and Lila, where Helga comforts Arnold after he got rejected by Lila.
Yeah. Dumped you flat, hung you out to dry, doesn't like you, just likes you, but still wants to be friends?
Mm-hmm.
You okay, Arnold?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I guess you really liked her, huh? Don't worry, you'll bounce back. There's plenty of other fish in the sea, right?
Yeah.
Helga's obsession was so intrusive to her life that she once bought an anti-love potion to try to cure herself from being lovesick.
With this potion, may I love Arnold no more!
But Helga was not only extremely obsessed with Arnold, she was also very possessive. Helga would always sabotage his plans with any girl he seemed to show an interest in. The 6th grader Ruth,
and I can't wait to give it to Ruth.
Ruth? She's making a Valentine for Ruth McDougal? She's nothing but a stuck-up 6th grade trained bra-wearing bracy-faced 6th grader.
The new girl turned archenemy Lila, or even a random girl at the beach. Because of Helga's possessiveness, she was venomously against anyone other than her kissing Arnold during the school play. In the episode School Play, we watched Helga jump through hoops to secure her fate as Juliet. To Helga's horror, this ended up with her confessing her love for Arnold to Lila.
I like Arnold.
Pardon? I couldn't hear you.
I like Arnold.
I'm sorry, Helga, you're mumbling.
I like Arnold! Oh, I'm head over heels, hook, line, and sinker, over the moon, loop the loop, wow, wow, dude, I'm in love with the boy! Happy now! Happy!
Predictably, the result of all of Helga's actions was that Arnold thought she was strange and the pair were never in a relationship.
What is it with her?
Instead of being kind to Arnold, she spent all her time trying to hide her feelings by disguising it with bullying.
Feathers on his butt, gum on his shoe. He's killing me. Oh, yes, laugh, Helga, laugh. Yet it is a hollow sound. Arnold, what is wrong with me? I schemed for weeks for the chance to be beside you, and this is how I show my joy? By gluing feathers to your butt?
The only outward symbol of her affection towards Arnold was her pink bow. I think Helga continued to wear it because Arnold complimented her on it when they were in preschool. She desperately wanted Arnold to like her back, and that was the one thing about her she knew he liked. While Helga didn't get the kind of attention she wanted from Arnold, she did get unwanted attention from other boys in the series, one of whom was Arnold's dull and odd cousin Arnie.
I want us to spend every waking moment together. Let me tell you about myself. I like gum, and I like counting things, but most of all, I like gum.
The other was Brainy. Brainy stalked Helga, and I thought it was funny as a kid. But now, looking at the situation from Helga's perspective, it was very scary, intrusive, and violating. All Helga was trying to do was have some alone time to express her thoughts, but instead she was constantly interrupted by Brainy. Whether Brainy knew what he was doing was wrong or not, I'm not really sure. But either way, Helga should have been able to enjoy private moments to herself, but those moments were taken away from her. Helga's violent response to Brainy was hilarious as a kid, but now I see how it came from a deeply hurt place. She was being denied the ability to do what she wanted to do, and that was infuriating. Of course, while I don't believe there is ever an excuse for violence, I do have compassion for Helga and understand the anxiety and fear she likely felt knowing that she was always being stalked. Other than Brainy, Helga was irritated by most of her classmates. For example, Helga was annoyed by the popular fashionista Rhonda, and she even disliked Lila even before Arnold started liking her. It appears that Helga disliked anyone who was well liked by others. Perhaps this was because they reminded her of her sister.
Why don't you go back to your own house and stop bothering us?
In addition, Helga didn't like Harold very much, probably because he tended to whine and cry a lot, which annoyed her. Helga and Harold's relationship was strange in that they were both bullies who picked on others and each other as well. However, I'd say that Helga was probably the most domineering bully out of the two, considering Harold would sometimes be afraid of her, while the opposite was not true. Helga's best friend was Phoebe Heyerdahl. She bossed Phoebe around and treated her more like an assistant than a friend. She gave Phoebe orders and Phoebe faithfully complied. But just like all of Helga's relationships, her outward aggression was shielding a soft side underneath. Helga gave Phoebe advice when she needed it.
Look, Phoebe, you've got to snap out of this. I mean, criminy, it's not like it's the first time you ever farted. Heck, when you sleep over, you do it all the time. You rip them all night long. They stink to high heaven. It's all I can do to keep from passing out.
Just get out.
And stood by her in times of difficulties. In turn, Phoebe also helped Helga whenever she could. Throughout the series, it appears that Helga slowly warms herself up to being honest with Arnold. For example, in the episode Arnold's Valentine, while disguised as Arnold's pen pal Cecile, Helga talks to Arnold without holding back.
I have to tell you, I really like you, and I have to know. Do you like me too?
Again, Helga behaves in a way she wishes to, just under the shield of someone else. At one point, Helga couldn't stand him embracing her, but by the end of the series, she was holding him as if he were a puppy during a school dance. Helga tried to express her feelings unsuccessfully at first, however, by the end of Hey Arnold, she succeeded. But more on that later. There's actually a popular theory that states it's Helga and not Arnold who is the protagonist of Hey Arnold. I think that's very interesting, and at a first glance, it does make a lot of sense. Aside from Arnold, Helga and her family life is extensively developed like no other character. Also, in the opening credits of the show, Helga is the one who shouts out Hey Arnold. And lastly, Helga gets a lot of screen time by herself, where we hear her inner thoughts that no one else knows.
Oh, so shaped Prometheus, wandering the dismal deserts of my tormented soul.
We as viewers grew close to Helga because we knew about her love for Arnold and how much her parents' neglect bothered her when very few other characters in the show also knew about this. As viewers, her struggles made it easy to sympathize with her. If we were also going through a similar situation with our parents or had a secret crush on someone, we were able to relate to Helga, and that made us feel less alone. Helga was suffering in silence, but she disguised her emotions with aggression. She was hurt by those she expected to love her, and because of the frustration, she ended up hurting someone she loved, which caused her to feel even more hurt because she didn't know how else to express herself.
That's a nice buffalo there, Arnold.
Huh? Thanks, Helga.
I mean, yeah, if you want to call a pathetic little blob a buffalo.
Helga was trapped in an endless cycle of a lack of love and misery. The series concluded on a high note and was the fairy tale ending Helga always dreamed of. However, on second thought, maybe it kind of sends the wrong message. When you think about it, while Helga was someone who lived a difficult life and is deserving of sympathy, she incessantly bullied Arnold and never had any consequences for her actions. Arnold reacted by showing annoyance or just tried to ignore her altogether. He hated being bullied by Helga, and her words and actions towards him were hurtful and rude.
Why does she always pick on me, Grandpa?
Despite this, at the end of the Jungle movie, Helga gets what she always wanted: a relationship with Arnold. Due to Helga's relentless bravery and determination, Arnold's dream of having his parents in his life came true. Arnold felt a deep sense of appreciation towards Helga in return. He once saw Helga's actions as they were: unwarranted, confusing, annoying, and sometimes embarrassing.
Hey! Sucker!
But now, he saw her actions as symbols of her affection. The ending of the movie forgave Helga for her past actions by asserting that she was just in love, blurring the line between violence and love. If the roles were reversed and Helga was a boy and Arnold was a girl, would the show's ending still feel like the perfect way to end the series? It kind of sounds like the start to an unhealthy relationship. At the very least, Helga should have apologized to Arnold for all that she had put him through. But then again, Grandpa and Pookie's relationship started off the same way, and they seem to have a very long and happy marriage. What do you think? In conclusion, Helga G. Pataki was an incredible character in the Hey Arnold series. She was a rebel and wasn't afraid to stand out against the crowd. This pink bow-wearing Spitfire detested the status quo and was determined to be unapologetically herself. Her straightforwardness left us reeling with laughter, yet her broken heart had us tearing up. Helga faced the adversity in her life using coping mechanisms that were both destructive to herself and others. But despite her struggles, she still rose above them and thrived. She did well in school, athletics, and grew up to become self-reliant and independent. She taught us how the reasons for someone's actions can be more complex than meets the eye. Helga's bullying could easily be dismissed as expressions of a mean-spirited character. However, this would cause one to fall victim to the psychological concept of the fundamental attribution error. This is the tendency to fail to recognize when the behavior of another is due to situational variables and to instead attribute behaviors to one's personal state. Helga's bullying was not the result of her being a mean-spirited character. Instead, it was the result of her misplaced anger due to her family's neglect and her inability to express her feelings for Arnold. The relationships she had with her friends and family were important to her, even if they weren't the way she wanted. While Helga was constantly disappointed by many people in her life, she always remained hopeful that eventually, through ways she couldn't explain, everything would work out. Her family would notice and appreciate her, and Arnold would know how she really felt. And they did.
What's going on, Dad?
Well, the truth is, Helga, I thought about what you said back at the Beeper Emporium.
What do you say you put on your best little sailing outfit and come out with us?
Hey, who said you could touch me?
Helga suffered through neglect, favoritism, unrequited love, and stalking, yet in the end, she grew up to become an amazing character and lived her dream. Through watching Helga's story, we learned how, no matter what life throws at you, never give up hope. So with that, we are now at the end of my Hey Arnold character analysis video of Helga G. Pataki.
Young lady, we've got this shot. Please, cut. All right, kill it light.
What do you think of Helga? What was your favorite Helga moment? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at dialupdigest. Until next time, my friends, dialing out.